Coming up on this episode of Nocibur 3 Outdoors, host Dominic Simon finally completes his 6-year quest for a whitetail buck and puts one on the ground with his bow. Stay tuned for some exciting Wisconsin rut action.
Lucky spurs, lucky rookie.
Hi and welcome to Nocibur 3 Outdoors. I'm your host Dominic Simon, and on today's show we go back to November 4th, 2011 to the day that I shot my first buck with a bow.
So the neat thing about this year is we got a lot of preseason pictures on our trail cams. We had it set up in the right spot, and we were seeing a lot of bucks and a lot of the same bucks over and over again, and we finally got to the point where we started naming them, and we had all the bucks named, and there was about 4 or 5 of them that we had hooks and junior, mystery buck, and Browse being one of them, and we called him Browse because he's missing his brow tines. We had pictures of him in velvet, and then we got him when the horns got hard, and it was just a lot of fun doing that.
The cool thing about this hunt was this was a buck we'd been seeing since last year. We were sitting down by the creek bottom, and on opening day he was up at the top of the hill in the beans. This year we moved our stands up there, and sure enough he did the same thing he did last year. Okay, so it's September 17th, 2011. The bow season is finally here. We've been getting trail cam pictures of bucks moving during the day all summer, and I'm pumped. We get into the stand about 4 o'clock, and I haven't even had time to get my bow knocked or get my release on, and here comes the first buck. It's a buck we've seen before, a buck we named Browse. He's standing at 30 yards, feeding in the beans, and I have a wide open shot.
So we got in the woods in August. We got up in our tree stand. We cleared out the branches we thought we needed to clear out so that we'd have shot into the bean field. Once you know it, the buck stops right along the fence line, and the only branch that's in my way is blocking it from me from getting a good angle at him. All he needs to do is to take 5 steps out, and I'll have the perfect angle.
So we've been watching this buck for about 15 minutes. He's just standing there in the bean field at 30 yards, and he gives me a perfect broadside shot. When I ask my dad if he's on him, he tells him that there's this branch in the way, so I decide to pass on the shot. I am hoping that he takes the 5 steps he needs to further into the field so that my dad will be able to get on him with the camera. However, he doesn't take the 5 steps, and he decides to turn and go back into the woods. He comes literally right under our stand into another opening. However, this time my bow hanger is in the way, and I can't draw on this buck and take the shot. Because of this, we have to let him walk, and he lives to see another day. So after opening day, the rest of the season kind of continued on without much action. With the way work and the weather turned out, we didn't really get out much, and when we did, we weren't seeing a lot of deer. We were still getting a lot of trail cam pictures of deer. They just seemed to be moving at night, not really coming out during daylight hours. But when November hit, everything changed. So here it is, November 4th. And in Wisconsin, the first week of November always is the peak of the rut. I just got back from Canada, and my dad has been talking to buddies who have said that the deer have just been rutting like crazy. So I'm super excited to get out in the woods this morning. When we're driving in, a big buck crosses the road and heads right into the woods we're hunting. This is a good omen. As the morning continued on, we had a lot of rut activity down in the bedding area. There was bucks chasing does back and forth all morning. And eventually we had some does that came out and were hanging out underneath our stands in the woods, and I look back and here comes a buck coming out of the swamp with his head down, ready to chase those does. So as this buck started to get closer, I recognized a familiar face and saw that it was the buck that we had named Hooks. We named him Hooks because his brow tines were kind of hooking in. And as he got closer, the does ran out into the field, and they were starting to make their way up the fence line. Well, when he gets out in the field, the does run and turn and run back into the woods. And for some reason, he gets to within 10 steps of the opening that I had, and he just stops. And he's in thick brush, don't have a shot, he turns and he walks into the woods. And when he gets into the woods, he gets into one of my other openings, and he's standing there, and as soon as I turn to look at him and try to get my bow drawn, he looks right at me, and I look at him, and then he takes off. And that was that. It's getting to be prime time. There's about a half hour left of daylight, and the does are starting to come out into the field. They seem a little bit nervous and keep looking towards the creek bottom. I know it's only a matter of time before a buck steps out into the field.
Yeah, most of the preseason trail cam pictures that we were getting showed most of the bucks coming from the north out of the corn, crossing the fence row and coming down into the cut beans. So we kind of were set up with the camera and the bow angles and everything set up facing that fence row up towards the north. Well, since we were all set up facing the north, the camera, I had to take it out of the camera arm and tried to freehand it and tried to rest my hand as best I could and try to get some footage of him as he approached those does. Well, then once he got up by the island there, I was able to get the camera back in the camera arm, and I got on him right before Dominic started to do his grunting sequence.
By the time he got out to the island, I knew there was about 10 minutes of shooting light left. He was at 110 yards, and he was hanging out with those does. I knew that the does weren't going to lead him to me, so I had to make something happen quick. I pulled out my grunt tube, and I gave him a grunt. After the first grunt, he looked right at me. Second grunt, he kept looking, and by the third, he was coming right in, and he kept coming to 15 yards. They're at 110 yards. I'm going to see if I can grunt them in. He's coming, he's coming. First buck. Let's go.
Beautiful, Dominic.
Yes.
He came right in.
Just shot my first buck with a bow. Two does were out there by the island, and all of a sudden we kept seeing him looking back. He came running out. He was out there. I gave him a little bit of a grunt. He came running right in. Shot him about 15 yards. Nailed him. Went down about 60 yards away in the field, right over there. November 4th. This is a great day. We seen so many deer.
How many bucks? 4 bucks?
Seen like 4 bucks, and that was awesome. Let's get down while we still have some light and go see them.
Where is it? Is it broken?
Yeah. Blood in here.
Who is it?
Browse.
It is Browse. Good job, D.
Thanks. Alright, this is my first buck. We named him Browse. He, as you can see, doesn't have any brow tines. Got a lot of pictures of this deer. Happy with him. It was an awesome hunt. We saw so many deer today. Grunted him in. He just came running in like you see on all the TV shows, which made me happy. And, well,
all right.
It was awesome.
All right, T. Good job, bud.
Alright, this is my first buck. Got him with my bow. Starting to rut real hard. Saw a lot of deer today. This is the 4th buck we've seen, and we were trying the doe and estrus call, and they, I don't know, they didn't really seem to like that. They would, you know, they'd look at it, but then they'd, you know, keep walking away. Whereas this one, I finally tried the grunt call, and he came running right in. It was awesome.
He stinks.
Yeah, he sure was rutting. He was chasing the 2 does in the field, but first buck
Broke an arrow.
broke the arrow. I'm happy. It was one of my favorite hunts, anyways. Just the way it all worked out, and
Good job, D. All right.
the buck browse in his last picture. Got hundreds of pictures of this guy. Get out of here. And sure enough, got him in every stomach starting to.
The stomach?
I know it's only a matter of time before a buck, and tried it. First grunt, he looked at me. Okay, just stop it. He was at about 110 does, and he was hanging 110. I knew that I had about 10 minutes left. If just start this one over. This time to get my bow knocked.
He's along the edge of the fence line. Start over. We already had the trail cam pictures set up. Never mind. So, still can't be. We're out in the woods. We're getting ready. No, stop it. Yeah. I want to somehow.